Welcome to Wednesday, July 16th, 2025, your day weather podcast brought to you by the Advocate Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local attorney on your side. Free consultations at wyomingadvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Well, the cold front will be making headlines again today as it pushes south across the region. As you can see here in the photo from northern Wyoming yesterday, we'd call those clouds pretty juicy. A lot of moisture associated with that frontal system as it came into Montana, northern Wyoming, and the western Dakotas yesterday. And it also produced some heavy thunderstorms in central and western Wyoming that produced hail and some very strong and gusty winds. So we're going to be unseasonably cool along and east of the Continental Divide, but a little cool west of the Divide as well today as this front works its way south. Unfortunately, all ingredients are in place for severe weather, and a narrow north-south band along the front range of southern Wyoming and northern Colorado. We'll show you that here in a moment. But will there be a cap? We have talked about this before. When you get these upslope events behind cold fronts, sometimes a lid gets put on the atmosphere because of cool, cloudy conditions limiting solar heating and keeping that one important element away from the development of severe weather. If you get the cap, you can avoid the severe weather. If the cap breaks, watch out. So that's what we'll show you here in a moment. We have a fast-moving monsoonal plume coming up from the southwestern United States through the region Thursday through Saturday, which will increase shower and thunderstorm coverage again in some areas. But that southerly flow will bring rebounding temperatures this weekend and into early next week after the big cool down. Nice shot there of huge dragonfly there around the Glen Rock area. That's a beautiful shot there. And then heavy thunderstorm activity. We mentioned west central Wyoming yesterday. Fremont and Sublette and Hot Springs County saw wind gusts of over 70 miles an hour. And as you'll see in a moment, some hail and some heavy downpours with those showers and thunderstorms as they marched across the region yesterday afternoon and evening. And there's a shot between Casper and Gillette of heavy thunderstorms up along the Interstate 90 corridor that then continued up into South Dakota. And thunderstorms developing well ahead of the front in the monsoonal moisture. This is a shot from Cheyenne looking south. How far away do you think that thunderstorm is? Well, Jan went to the radar and found out it was all the way down near Watkins, Colorado, over 117 miles away to the south. So a testament to what the visibility can be like around here. And there's the hail, a shot out of Muddy Gap. Hail covering the ground, and if you take a closer look, it got pretty big. That's the kind of hail that can shred things very, very quickly, put dents in your car. And unfortunately, we're going to have a situation today that we could see a similar situation and similar photos come on in. There's a shot of some soupy weather there in Deadwood, South Dakota as the cold front came into the Black Hills yesterday. If you were under the front or near it, you certainly knew all about it. If you were south of the front, you just said it was another warm summer day. Speaking of hail, we showed you yesterday some unique ways to try to garden in the region with our frequent hail. And here's another very interesting way of doing things using those tomato cages, wall of waters, and that press and seal that you get at the grocery store to wrap your leftovers in. Thanks, Dale, for sending that in. Another really interesting way to try to garden in a very hard place to garden in. Satellite photo shows the cold air and the moisture in the low pressure system in the trough associated with the front. You can see there's monsoonal moisture coming up from the south and west. We've got the colder air coming in from the north. It looks like a battle plan here. Looks like Waterloo. We've got a lot going on. And as we zoom in, you know that by watching these videos that when you see this bluish tinge to cloud, that's your stratus clouds. Those are your low clouds that come along and east of the Divide, and that shows you where the extent of the cool front is going down the Colorado Front Range into the I-70 corridor here by early this morning, and it will advance south. So when we look at the water vapor, we can see there's plenty of water coming into the atmosphere from the southwest up into the system. So we've got the upslope And we've got the water. We've got everything we need. The daytime heating is going to be the trick in that possible cap. So here we are at 18,000 feet or 500 millibars. There's the upper level low going across the Dakotas, the high there in the eastern Pacific. And we've got this area of low pressure in northwest Mexico that's helping to feed some of that subtropical moisture northward. When we take a look at all the elements in place that we watch for severe weather, the upslope is really important, especially east of the Continental Divide, where the air is forced to rise across the high plains in elevation from the lower elevations here to the higher elevations here. And behind cold fronts, you're always going to get a surface high. So the clockwise circulation around the high is going to bring upslope. Then the counterclockwise low pressure that's naturally occurring in the warmer temperatures out here in the Great Basin. So what we have is upslope. So we have that upslope pattern where the winds on the ground are coming in from an easterly direction. That's also transporting higher humidity air uphill. When you force air uphill, it will rise, cool, and sometimes will condense. And that adds fuel to the fire, so to speak. So we have that. When we take a look at the satellite photo that we just showed you, you can really see the upslope working there. Aloft, this is at 18,000 feet or 500 millibars. We have a pocket of cold air aloft. This is by noon today. So think of this as an upper level area of cold air, or acting like a cold front aloft. And remember, the colder the air is aloft, the easier it is for the air to rise and produce thunderstorms. So when we have a pocket of colder air coming in with the upslope like this time of year, you add the higher terrain to help lift with the lift as well. Well, you have all the necessary ingredients. There's your precipitable water by noon today for severe weather. And the Storm Prediction Center is highlighting that. So the yellow area in particular, you got to get ready for severe weather today if the cap breaks. If you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of sun and you keep the sun for most of the day, that'll put a lid on the atmosphere. But if the atmosphere warms up, we have everything in place. And as we have mentioned, in these stronger cold fronts in summer, the thunderstorms like to be better hail producers. Why? Because of that colder air aloft. It just creates a better environment for hail formation. And the Storm Prediction Center actually does have that same shaded area as a low wind possibility for tornadoes, but it's the hail that will be the biggest risk in that yellow shaded area. But you don't have to be in that yellow shaded area. If you're near it, you're still under the gun. Now, will the cap break? So here's a prediction from the European model of a low, of basically the low clouds we showed you on the satellite imagery. And you can see it goes up against along the Continental Divide there. This is by 6 a.m. this morning. So will it hold? Well, by noon, you can see there's an erosion. See the erosion of the low cloud deck? So in that erosion, you're going to see the daytime heating. It doesn't mean there won't be clouds here. There will be some high and mid-level clouds. We're only looking at the low cloud deck. But if the low cloud deck erodes, you're going to get your thunderstorms and your heavy thunderstorms where there's heating. And that's exactly what the Storm Prediction Center is showing. And then when you're really cool up here, you're going to likely have that lid or that cap on the atmosphere. So these are the temperatures by 3 p.m. Mountain Time today. By 3 p.m. Mountain Time Thursday, that cool air really settles in. So here's where the thunderstorms are predicted to be forming along the I-80 corridor, but here you can see the cap right here. So you can see where it's just going to be tool for thunderstorms to get going. But south of that boundary, things are going to pop, and you can see where those thunderstorms will go. Now for Thursday, we may have some return flow along the Front Range here. The cap continues out here on the plains, but where it's warmer and moist, thunderstorm activity will continue into those areas there. Then we have a day 2 scenario possibly setting up as we get into Thursday and Friday, as here's that subtropical moisture plume, that arch that we showed you yesterday, Thursday and Friday expanding northward. So by Friday, we are going to be looking at thunderstorms coming back to the north again, and quite a bit of activity in Mexico, New Mexico, maybe, and let's hope, the western slope of Colorado back into Utah in the Great Basin here. Friday and Saturday, thunderstorms will get going as that subtropical moisture plume on Saturday continues its trek to the north and east. There's a very active afternoon and evening of heavy thunderstorms out on the plains, but also on either side of the divide as we get into the day on Saturday. Now on Sunday, as that plume advances and drier air comes in, Sunday's thunderstorm activity will diminish, head more off to the east. Then we've got a little dry pocket here that will interrupt the monsoonal moisture flow for late in the weekend and early next week. There you can see on Sunday that dry air pushing those thunderstorms more off to the east. As we go out to next week, lo and behold, we still have the high in the eastern Pacific. We have another front wanting to form. My goodness. I don't think this front is going to be able to penetrate further south, as this high here is going to grow in the south central United States and bulge a little bit northward. And that will probably keep that from coming too far south like the last two fronts have done. But we'll watch it. Nonetheless, it's just very interesting summer so far. But the pattern will start to recharge moisture from the Gulf. We'll also have what's the remains of Dexter coming into this part of the world here, and that could add moisture to the system as we get into the early, but especially the middle portions of next week with the next plume of subtropical moisture. So we'll just kind of have to watch to see how it evolves down here early next week with the subtropical moisture situation. Have yourself a good Wednesday. Hopefully hail doesn't visit your neighborhood.